You know, most people have good business ideas. In fact, I would argue most people have at least one idea they believe could become a real business. But here's the hard truth: your idea is not enough. Someone less qualified than you may already be making more money from an idea you are still just thinking about. They may not even be smarter than you. They may not be more experienced than you. They may not even have more resources than you, but they're moving. And in business, movement creates feedback. Feedback creates improvement. Improvement creates momentum, and momentum creates revenue. So today we're kicking off a new series on the Naples Commission called The 10 Stages of Business, and we're getting started where every business owner starts. Stage 1. But before we jump in, my name is Sean Shakarami, and welcome back to the Naples Commission, where we help business owners, families, and professionals in Southwest Florida grow, protect, and pass down wealth while learning from the people shaping the community here in Naples. If you care about business, leadership, wealth, legacy, and building something that lasts, make sure to hit that subscribe button today. And if you want to find out what stage of business you're actually in right now, send me a message with the word stage or look in the description and check out my free business stage transformation app. About 14 years ago, while I was still in college, I had what I thought was a really good business idea. This was before social media became what it is today. Groupon was growing quickly, and at that time, I noticed a problem with Groupon's model. The main issue, at least from my perspective, was the customer experience. People thought they were getting these amazing deals, but when they'd actually show up, the experience was often less than ideal. You know the phrase, you get what you pay for. But there was something about Groupon that I really liked. It was focused on local businesses. It created visibility, it created urgency, it created movement around Main Street companies. It gave local businesses a way to reach people, and I loved that. I had a slightly different idea. I wanted to build something almost like a Kickstarter before Kickstarter became what it is today, but instead of funding products or donations and pre-sales, it'd be focused on private debt and capital markets. The idea was to match more sophisticated investors with Main Street businesses that needed liquidity, growth capital, or expansion funding. Looking back, it was a pretty ambitious idea for a college kid, but it was not a crazy idea. In fact, this has been attempted over the years, and I would still argue that efficient small business capital market liquidity is one of the holy grails of the private business economy. But here's where the lesson comes in. I shared the idea in a business class, and after graduation, two classmates took a very similar idea and actually put it into action. From what I remember, they seemed to have some real success. I think they raised seed capital and got the Series A funding with some private equity groups. At that time, I was angry, but years later, I see it differently. They didn't steal an idea, they executed. And that's the first painful lesson of business. The market rewards the people who create value. And your idea alone is not valuable. It's not the asset, it has no enterprise value. The idea is just potential. Execution is where it turns into something real. Courage is what gets you out of your head, and discipline is what keeps it moving when the excitement wears off. Validation is what tells you whether the market actually cares, and consistency is what turns early movement into long-term momentum. That's where the business begins. Not with the perfect logo, not the website, not a perfect business plan, not the moment when the stars align. Business begins when you take an idea and begin testing it in the real world. That's stage 1. The idea is what everyone starts with. But not every idea becomes a business. Most ideas stay trapped in someone's head, or notes app, or journal, or a conversation with a friend, or something they may think about late at night and say, one day I'm going to do that. But one day can sometimes become 10 years. Not because you're lazy or incapable, but because without clarity, ideas stay vague. Without structure, it's just an emotional appeal. Without movement, the potential just stays trapped in your imagination. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Someone less qualified than you is probably already moving on a similar idea. They may have less wisdom, less skill, less experience. They may even have less character and integrity, but they are taking action. And because they're taking action, they're learning. And as they learn, they get better. And as they get better, they gain more confidence. And with more confidence, they're building momentum. So the question is not, do I have a good idea? The better question is, am I really willing to test this idea with discipline, courage, and humility? That's what separates a dreamer from a builder. Now, I want to be very clear. I'm not saying that every idea should become a business. Some ideas are distractions. Some ideas are ego projects. Some ideas are emotional reactions to frustration. Some ideas sound great in your head, but fall apart when they hit real world economics. That's why stage one requires imagination, but it also requires discernment. You have to ask some hard questions. Does this idea solve a real problem? Would people actually pay me for this? Do I understand the customer? Do I have the skills to execute it? Does this align with my calling and purpose? Does it fit the life I'm trying to build? And can it become profitable without destroying financial stability? Because a business idea should not just be exciting, it should be viable, it should be useful, it should solve a problem that matters. Preferably, it should solve a painful problem for a specific group of people who are already looking and willing to pay for a solution. And that's where many people get it wrong. They fall in love with their idea before they fall in love with the problem. But customers don't pay for excitement. They pay for the problem solved. They pay for their pain being relieved. They pay for the outcomes. They pay for the value. So before you build a website, design a logo, announce a brand, ask, what problem does this actually solve? Who has this problem? How painful is it? Are they willing to pay me for it? And why would they choose me? This is how you begin moving from excitement to clarity. So here's a practical exercise. Write down your top 5 business ideas. Not 1, 5, or more. Give yourself permission to think, imagine, explore. Run each idea through 3 different filters. Number 1, purpose. Does it align with who I am? Number 2, passion. Do I actually care about this enough to keep going even when it gets hard? Number 3, skill set. Do I have a real advantage, an expertise, a network, or a capability that gives me a good reason to compete in this space? The strongest businesses usually sit at the intersection of all 3 of these main points. Purpose gives it meaning, passion gives it energy, skill set gives it credibility. When all 3 align, you may have something worth testing. Not betting your entire life on, testing. There's a major difference. And that is important because stage 1 is not about reckless action. It's about wise action. Get wise feedback. Once you identify the strongest idea, do not immediately announce it to the world, and do not immediately ask all your friends and family what they think. I love friends and family, but in the early stages of business, they are often not the best source of feedback. They usually do one of 2 things. They either tear the idea down because they're going to project their own fear on you, or they build you up unrealistically because they love you and want to be supportive. And neither one is very helpful. What you need is a small circle of 3 to 5 people who you really trust and have real-world business experience. People who understand customers, people who understand sales, people who understand risk, people who can ask hard questions without it crushing your spirit. Ask them, do you think this is viable? What blind spots do you think I have? Who do you think would actually pay for this? What would make this fail? What would need to be true for this to work? And this is important. You are not looking for validation. You're looking for clarity. Most people want encouragement, but entrepreneurs need truth. Here's another tip. Use AI, but don't outsource your judgment. AI can be incredibly valuable. It can be used to create a SWOT analysis. Ask it to identify competitors. You can ask it to pressure test the business model. You can ask it to help draft and refine your business plan. You can ask it to help with customer segments, pricing, risk assumptions, go-to-market strategies, but do not outsource your judgment. AI can help you think, but it can't replace wisdom, can't replace prayer. It cannot replace real conversations with customers and the people you're trying to help. It cannot replace lived experience, and it definitely can't replace courage. Use it as a thinking partner, but not a substitute for leadership. The goal in stage 1 is not to create a beautiful theoretical business plan. The goal is to find out whether the idea has enough substance to move into validation. And very importantly, don't quit your job. If you're in stage 1, stay. Don't drain your savings. Don't take on unnecessary debt. Do not buy a lot of software or invest in heavy marketing or branding. Don't spend 6 months designing a website. And don't convince yourself that going all in means being reckless. Faith is not foolishness. Courage is not chaos. There's a disciplined way to begin. Keep your main source of income. Time block a few hours before work, after work, and on weekends. Use that time to validate the idea. Talk to your potential customers. Build a simple offer. Get 1 customer, then 2. Use the early revenue to reinvest. Let the market confirm the idea before your ego overcommits to it. That's how you turn a vision into reality without compromising yourself. And for a lot of people, that's the wisest first move. Not dramatic or flashy, not reckless, just disciplined. It's never been easier to start. You can create content for free. You can build a landing page quickly. You can use AI to accelerate research, planning, writing, and customer discovery. You can test an offer before building a full product. You can sell services before hiring a team. You can start with a laptop, a phone, and a few focus hours per week. The barrier is no longer access. The barrier is discipline and consistency and emotional maturity. The barrier is your willingness to be seen trying before it's polished. The barrier is your ability to marry the process instead of worshiping the desired outcome. That's where business actually begins, with the idea and also the decision to move. This is stage one. So what idea have you been sitting on? What vision keeps coming back to you? What problem do you keep noticing? What opportunity do you keep seeing? What do you keep saying someone should build, fix, create, or improve? Maybe that someone is you. But if you keep waiting, someone else may move, and maybe they will not even do it better than you. They'll just do it sooner. And that's often enough. Stage one is the idea, but the unlock is not just having the idea. It's taking the first courageous, disciplined, and responsible step toward validation. Not fantasy or impulsiveness. It's not quitting everything overnight, just a step. Because an idea in your head is only potential, and an idea validated by the market becomes the beginning of a real business. This video is the beginning of a series on the 10 stages of business. Whether you're still sitting on an idea, making the jump, surviving the valley, scaling through delegation, replacing yourself, preparing for succession and legacy, every business owner has a next stage, and every stage has a different unlock. The mistake most business owners make is trying to solve the wrong problem at the wrong stage. That creates confusion, wasted money, burnout, and stalled growth. So before you try to scale, hire, rebrand, raise capital, quit your job, or just chase the next opportunity, get clear on where you actually are. Send me a message and look in the description, and I'll send you my free business stage transformation guide. And if this video made you think of someone who has been sitting on an idea for too long, send this to them. Sometimes the right message at the right time is what helps people finally move. Thanks for watching the Naples Commission. Make sure to subscribe for the rest of the 10 stages. Your idea may be closer than you think, but only execution will turn it into something real.